Lots of players will not be playing for Florida State in the Orange Bowl. It is a who's not a who's who of Florida State roster members for Saturday's game against the Georgia Bulldogs, alongside the founder and administrator of Warchant.com. He's Gene Williams. My name is Tom Lang. We're going to be going through, Gene, the list of all the opt-outs for Florida State and then the two deep that was released on Tuesday night from down there in Miami. It's more like going into the 3 and the 4 deep, though, generally, Gene, if you're looking at this depth chart relative to what it was for the ACC championship game and Florida State's final regular season game against Florida. Before we get to the list, Gene, just your thoughts on what Florida State is up against and how you would categorize this exhibition with Georgia. Is it spring game level? Is it straight exhibition level? How does this game feel to you for Saturday afternoon?
It's nuts, man. I can't even, how I feel as a media member and a fan, I can't even imagine what it's like to be a player, even worse, a coach trying to prepare for this game with what's going on. This is what struck me is how unprecedented. Florida State always seems to be the team that has these things happen to them that's really never happened at that level before. I mean, you go back to Travis Hunter a couple years ago. No school's ever had a number one guy flip on them on signing day like that. No one's ever had a committee completely screw them over when they earned a berth in the college football playoff. We don't need to rehash that. We've been through it 100 times. And no one's ever gone into a major bowl game like this and had basically every key member and almost a bunch of the key backups opt out before the game. It's unbelievable. I'm trying to wrap my head around how do you feel going into this thing, because it's just not, like you said, it's exhibition level. But if you look at some of the stuff on the other side, it looks like Georgia, the bulk of their team, is going to be playing. So
Yep.
you know you're in for an ass whip, and it's just how close can you keep the game? What will this mean? What will the narrative be from the fans? What will it be from the national media? I'm very curious how Joe Tessitore is going to cover this game. What is he going to say? You know, his job's to keep people interested. Will he say this is a shell of a Florida State team? So just, or is he going to try to, will he put the ESPN narrative out there and try to bash Florida State, or will he be honest about this? I don't know what to think going into this game, other than the fact, Tom, I'm not looking forward to it at all. I told you beforehand, being here since when I came to Florida State in '85, I don't think I've ever entered a game where I effectively have no interest in it. Other than seeing a couple, we're going to go through some of the players, other than seeing some of the young players get out there, just like in a spring game, seeing some of the young players get their shot to see how they look. Other than that, just the game itself, nah, it's nothing.
So we'll go through the list of the players that are opting out right now. Obviously, when looking at the two deep, it's going to be quarterback Tate Rodemaker, who's not playing. The running back position is the one that's decimated the most, I think, because, when you're talking Keziah Holmes and Sam Singleton are the only scholarship running backs going to be available to you. That means that Trey Benson, Lawrence Toafili, Rodney Hill, just to name 3 running backs who are not available in this game for Florida State. Again, Trey Benson opted out weeks ago. Rodney Hill entered the portal. Lawrence Toafili is not available in this game. I believe that is due to an injury. And then CJ, because he's returning for 2024, is CJ Campbell, who was on the field for the first snap of the ACC championship game, also entered the transfer portal. So they're down a lot of players at running back, wide receiver. We all know the 2 headliners were not going to play in this game. Johnny Wilson opted out, and he's going to be in the Senior Bowl. Keon Coleman is not on the 2 deep. I don't know that he made, as of Tuesday night, an official statement, Gene, that he was not going to play. But you get the sense he was already in here as a one-and-done type player, that he was not going to be available. Jaheim Bell, who really, Gene, was a game breaker for Florida State in the first half of the season. He made his mark in the LSU game, but tight end Jaheim Bell didn't look anywhere close to 100% in the back half of the season. He was hurt, so he's not available in this game. Tight end Marquiston Douglas left via the transfer portal. So in terms of skill position players, I mean, it's a ton of dudes. Throw in the fact that Jordan Travis is unavailable for injury. Our own Corey Clark, Gene, reported that of the 57 touchdowns the FSU offense scored in 2023, 8 will be on the field. Players who accounted for 8 of 57 touchdowns will be on the field. As we're looking at the 2 deep now, the offensive line is close to what it looked like week to week. Bless Harris opted out, entering the transfer portal. He's now a member of the TCU football program. Otherwise, the offensive line looks to be mostly intact. But, Gene, at the skill positions, Florida State has been absolutely decimated. And here's the 2 deep. So what do you think as you're reviewing this list of players?
Yeah, I mean, it's Corey, a great stat. I heard that on Wake Up Warchant this morning. That just shows you what was lost. Because you look at the skill players, Tom, and there's no starters other than Destin Hill. I guess started a lot of games at slot, even though he didn't do much. Mm-hmm. But other than that, all the skill players, none of them are starters, and some weren't even second string. that are lined up to be starters in this game. So that tells you right there. It is comforting, at least when you've got a true freshman quarterback that you're, like you said, essentially your offensive line is intact. So at least you would hope it wouldn't be a free for all against him, even though you're going against one of the best defenses in college football, which looks like they will be mostly intact. But again, it's an opportunity to see Brock Glenn, what he can do. Unfortunately, it would be nice if he had some weapons out there, guys to throw to. You've got some guys with some talent. We've seen Kentron flash at times. Destin Hill. He didn't do much during the season. Hopefully he's a little healthier. Darian's flashed a game or two during his career. So you hope you can muster up a little bit of offense with those guys. And again, not fair to Brock Glenn to go in this game. And I think I get annoyed at people that because they saw him in one game and said, well, he can't play. Well, he missed 2 months of the season. He's a true freshman. So he's not even a true freshman at this point. He's barely a true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unfortunate he has to go in, but it is what it is. And then you hope to goodness he doesn't get hurt, because then you're down to the walk-ons having to go out in the Orange Bowl against Georgia. But yeah, it's a shell of what that offense was just a couple weeks ago. So it is, but we talked about the opt-outs, Tom, and here's the result.
Yeah, 2 walk-ons at quarterback. Florida State likes to list 2 running back positions. At one of the 2 positions, you got 2 wide receivers, essentially. Josh Burrell has bounced back and forth as a running back and a receiver, but he still wears 81. So that gives you an idea where he's at. Gene, I don't like that Hakeem Williams is listed as number 2 on the depth chart behind Kentron.
Yeah.
To me, that means I'm speculating, pure speculation. I'm not on the ground like Irish Rafael, Aslan Hajavandi in Miami. But that to me means that Hakeem's not 100%, because he was climbing up the ranks of the 2 deep as the season was going along. To me, that indicates that maybe he might be available in stretches, but not like he normally would be. And then, at tight end, Jackson West is starting for you. Okay. I mean, Jackson was getting some more reps as the season went along, but he's certainly not a starter by any means. And we'll see what the offensive line looks like too, Gene, snap for snap, drive for drive. I don't want to be even more of a wet blanket on this 2 deep, which is pretty soaking at this moment. But I want to see how many snaps these guys actually play. Maurice Smith is legitimately injured through the season. I mean, you could see how much pain he was playing through. Are they really going to subject 53 to a full game against Georgia, or is it going to be out there a representative amount? Ditto for Darius. Gene, it's a bit of a mess they got to sort out. When you're talking about excitement factor, though, Keziah Holmes had some moments where he flashed this season. The question of what Brock Glenn is, I'm sure he's going to complete more than 55 yards worth of passes, which is all he needed to do.
Yeah, what's the over/under on that, Tom? What do you if you're laying that line? What are you saying in passing yards for Brock?
Well, it's Georgia's defense, Gene, so let's call it 162 and a half. There you go.
I had about 130, 140 in this one, because I just don't think – look, here's the thing, too. I'm wondering this. They could have some – it's interesting to see what Mike Norvell's philosophy is going to be going to this game offensively. Does he go willy-nilly? Does he just, hey, put him back there, chuck it all over the place, running some trick plays, have a lot of fun, or does he slow the game down, try to pound the ball with Keziah and see how it goes? Another interesting thing, so if Brock's either gets hurt or, let's say, just not going well, you do something fun like put Deuce Spann in the backfield and let him be just run Wildcat with it. Do something different like that. I mean, I think at that point in your second half, you're down 20 points. What's the point in having Brock Glenn go back there and just get pummeled?
Yeah, that's the funny part too. Is the Wildcat in the ACC championship game was Lawrence Toafili and C.J. Campbell. So neither of those.
Yeah,
two.
where are they? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The one I saw on that depth chart, I think could do that pretty well. Might be Deuce.
Yes, he was a high school quarterback, so he should have. I wish they could give Cam Davis some run, the 2024 signee. He played quarterback all season long in high school, but unfortunately that's not in the cards for Florida State. Defensively, Jared Verse is one of the top opt-outs for Florida State. That's not a surprise at all that Jared was going to be unavailable in this game. He's a first-round grade, makes a ton of sense. Jerrion Jones is a bit of a surprise. He confirmed it on Wednesday to the assembled media. I think he put it out on social media, to be specific, after posting that he was going to play in either the Senior Bowl or the East-West, and that there was one more game to go. Number 7 for Florida State at slot corner will not be playing in the Orange Bowl. Renardo Green on Tuesday night, December the 26th, put out a social media post that he will not be playing for Florida State. Akeem Dent opting out as well. After 74 seasons at Florida State, Akeem Dent's career is done at Florida State. So when you're looking at the starting lineup for the Noles, on one side of the field, you do have starting player Patrick Payton at defensive end. The rotational guys in Gilbert Edmond and Byron Turner are going to be comprising the Jared Verse role at defensive end. And then in the middle for now, at least for
Mm.
now, Braden Fisk is listed as a starter, Josh Farmer as a starter. Florida State does get Daryl Jackson back. This is his first game in the Garnet and Gold after the eligibility restrictions are lifted. You know, Gene, I think 2 weeks ago they said, never mind, you could have played the whole season anyway to anybody who was in Daryl Jackson's position, which is extra annoying, extra salt in wounds that don't need more salt for Florida State. Tatum Bethune-Kalen DeLoach listed as the starters at linebacker. That's a good thing for Florida State. Deuce Cypress, Fentrell Cypress at corner, Azarie Thomas at corner. Those are pretty much your starters toward the end of the season. And then again at safety, Shyheim Brown is there and Kevin Noles or Conrad Hussey. So, Gene, this one isn't as gashed as the offense, but your thoughts on what you see from Florida State's two deep defensively for the Orange Bowl?
Yeah, I mean the front six is solid. I mean, especially if Farmer and Peyton play the full game or most of the game, and Fisk does, and you got Jackson coming off the bench a little bit to rotate in and give those guys some breathers and let's see what he can do. I mean, it's not bad. In the back half, other the safety position obviously is not because we had the opt outs that hurts you there, corners or something. So the defense is actually, I think we're going to be interesting to see without having Verse on the one side. Does that limit Patrick Payton's effectiveness? Because let's face it, teams had to slot over protection
Yep.
to his side of the field, and I think that opened up things a lot for Patrick. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what he can do on his own. And all right, but the defense is not bad. But the fear you have, Tom, even if these guys are holding their own, how many 3-and-outs, how many bad field positions, you feel like it's one of these games where they're going to lose field position because the offense can't move the ball. These guys are going to have their backs up against the wall constantly against Georgia. You figure at some point that dam is going to break, but at least in terms of the starters and a backup here, they're not bad. It's still solid. It's about 70-80% of what that defense was at the end of the year.
Yeah, again, too, it should be noted for everybody out there that bowl games do not count against the red shirt. So if you're counting games for a freshman or somebody who had an injury in an earlier season, you're saying this is his fifth game. Why is he? No, that's not the case. These games do not count as your fifth in terms of redshirt eligibility. So Florida State can roll anybody out there that they want. And one player, Gene, that was interesting to me, Kevin Noles has had a rough season for Florida State at safety. He was better earlier in his career as a nickelback, as a slot corner, and they list him as the starter over Greedy Vance in that position, which I find fascinating. Conrad Hussey is somebody I think a lot of Noles fans want to see out there, number 12, playing safety in place of Akeem Dent. It was ugly when Akeem Dent wasn't a part of this secondary this year, but maybe Conrad Hussey has grown into a role there that might see him stand a little bit more confidently than he did for stretches of the early season. We know that Conrad Hussey brings the pain, though, but it's got to be, Gene, about Daryl Jackson lining up next to Braden Fisk or lining up next to Joshua Farmer. This defensive interior, I think, is what people also want to see. I should also note, of course, that Fabian Lovett, of course, will not be playing. He's been at Florida State forever and a day, but number 0, Fabian Lovett, won't be in the defensive tackle rotation. So all in all, Gene, you see the list. We'll put it up one more time on offense. It is, a very different looking group for Florida State. A lot of names that are going to gain some serious experience against the Georgia Bulldogs defensive front. The offensive line is the only thing that kind of resembles what it looked like for the balance of the 13-0 run for Florida State. Defensively, it's a lot more similar. Jared Verse, Fabian Lovett not playing, Akeem Dent not playing, and a couple of your corners in Jerrion Jones and Renardo Green, who was your best cover corner, not available in this game. So, Gene, now reviewing all of those players, Florida State specialists should be the same, the kicker, the punter. Is Florida State, do you think, making a sort of a statement in terms of the guys that decided, this game doesn't mean anything relative to the college football invitational?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because, like I said, we've never seen anything like this. There's never been a team in a major bowl opt out to this level. So you got to think there's more going on here. I don't think there was the players got together and sat down and let's do a protest by a bunch of us opting out. I don't think that happened, but I do think as time went on and this sunk in and psychologically where these guys were for being kicked in the ass by the committee and realizing that we've been told that our last few games meant nothing. This game obviously means nothing. We have whether we're transferring to another school, we're hurt, or we're going on to the NFL. What's the point? And if we can send a message in the process to college football, to ESPN, who's going to broadcast this game, screw you, screw the committee. I think maybe even consciously or subconsciously, I think it is playing a role here. But an organized opt-out, I don't think that's really taking place. But let's face it, the game is a sham. I think if it's any other coach, and I'm curious to get your take on this, I think a lot of other coaches would have had the whole team opt out of the game based on
Mhm.
what's happened here. But Mike Norvell's mentality of you're never going to quit. He's like Ted Lasso here. He's going to have that positive go ahead attitude. He doesn't want to reflect negativity to the team, so he's going to play this game come hell or high water. I don't know if a lot of coaches would have done that. I think that at this point they said can't reasonably field a team for this game, and I think we've seen similar cases where I don't think Florida State would have been penalized if they can show enough players are out. Mysteriously 4 or 5 other offensive linemen could say, "Oh, I can't play, I got a knee injury, an ankle," and then they say, "Look, we can't field the team,"
Yeah.
and they would have been able to get out of the game. But that's not Mike Norvell's mentality, so it may be ugly. And we'll be there to do the post-game show for it, Tom. But I mean, I think Mike Norvell's going to go in guns blazing.
Yeah, we've got a pregame show 3:00 leading up, so we'll go through the warm-ups and we'll find out even more about who's available and who's not for Florida State. The postgame show afterwards with Gene and myself. We might take a call or two along the way. We'll see how salty everybody's feeling after the game. But Gina, I think at this point you've got no choice but to say it's an opportunity for the younger players to understand what elite speed looks like on the other side of the ball. For a Hakeem Williams or a Dre Jacobs or Brock Glenn, a lot of these dudes who were young players, Conrad Hussey, seeing skill position players like those at Georgia, this is a great opportunity to file away. Am I saying that I'm happy that Florida State has this opportunity? Of course not. I'd rather them be in the Invitational. They should be. That's what's right. But at this point, that is something that happened almost a month ago. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to put up your best effort with the guys that you have. The one thing I would say, Gene, is if a guy like Amari Smith or somebody else who's dinged up is coming to the sidelines limping, you yank that player out of the game.
I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you'll see guys, if it's borderline, they'll say, just sit down, son, rest up. I mean, the good thing is they have a lot of time to get ready, but you don't want these guys to be impacted for spring either, because even Amari Smith, you say, well, he's got all this experience. You know what? He's going to have different quarterbacks to work with. He's going to be making a lot of snaps to Luke Kromenhoek, and maybe a Cam or a DJ or somebody else is going to be in there this spring. You need him to work with those guys. So the worst thing you want to have is him have a setback and then limit what he can do in the spring. So the spring game and spring practice is 100 times more important than what's going on this weekend in this game.
This is like a spring game with live quarterbacks and live special teams. That's what we're going to see on Saturday in Miami at the Orange Bowl for full coverage of what's going on down there, because they're interesting storylines like how Brock Glenn is adapting to this second start. It's available now on Warchant TV and warchant.com. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. We will also be documenting the transfer portal throughout the next few weeks and month, and then Florida State's exit of the ACC. All available now at warchant.com, Warchant TV. Subscribe to the channel, head over to the website, and join the membership if you don't mind. He's Gene Williams. My name is Tom Lang. Until next time on Warchant TV, check out our channel for more coverage from down in Miami. Irish O'Fell, Aslan Hudjavandi are holding it down for the staff down there. Goodbye, everybody.